thing?
But this one I have to look. 1 second.
Take your time.
Where's my box? It's a new camera. Here.
Too many menus.
Uh,
That's cute.
yeah, I like it.
Mark Abraham will buy one next week. And sell it 2 weeks from after that.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, everyone.
Yes,
They're
we're
coming.
waiting.
Slowly but surely.
I say,
Two more.
Johnny!
Here we
Yes.
go. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I'm pleased to be joined by my colleagues, Senator Ernst, who is a co-lead on this resolution, and sponsors Senator Scott, Stabenow, Isaacson, and Tillis. Like all Americans, we have been awed by the bravery and grit of the young women who have come forward to bring Larry Nassar to justice. Senator Ernst and I met with a group of those young athletes last week. We thank them for their bravery. And while these brave young women are proud of the role they played in bringing Nassar to justice and in helping to change our laws to make sure it doesn't happen again, and I certainly credit Senator Feinstein and Thune for their legislation, it's also clear that they still need and want answers. The U.S. Olympic Committee and USA Gymnastics need to be held accountable. Today, we're announcing a bipartisan resolution to establish a special committee in the Senate to investigate U.S. Olympic Committee and USA Gymnastics to deliver answers and accountability. So far, we have 18 senators who support this effort, 6 Republicans and 12 Democrats, and I hope that that list will continue to grow. This special committee would compel the U.S. Olympics Committee and USA Gymnastics to give testimony in a public forum. Our resolution also requires that at least half of the members of this special committee are women. As we're learning, this was not a simple case of negligence or failed oversight on the part of the U.S. Olympic Committee, USA Gymnastics, and other institutions. There is ample evidence that many were alerted multiple times to Nassar's behavior, and they found excuses to look the other way. As Olympic gold medalist Aly Raisman put it, USA Gymnastics and the U.S. Olympic Committee created the perfect environment for this monster. Now, we recognize that the U.S. Olympic Committee is a federally chartered institution, and its athletes compete under the American flag, so the Senate has a clear responsibility to provide oversight. More than that, we owe it to all Olympians to seek answers and to deliver accountability. As the Washington Post reported in 2017, more than 290 coaches and officials associated with the U.S. Olympic sports organizations have been publicly accused of sexual misconduct since 1982. 290. That is not acceptable. We need to change the culture at these Olympic organizations. And in particular, we owe to the gymnasts who bravely stepped forward to end Larry Nassar's reign of abuse and answer. 2 days from now, our Olympic athletes will compete in the opening ceremonies in Pyeongchang. Our country will unite and we will cheer them on because they make us so proud. But sometimes our athletes need more than our cheers, and this is one of those times. Now with that, I'll turn it over to Senator Ernst, who is the co-lead on the resolution. Thank you, Senator.
And thank you, Senator Shaheen, and to all of our colleagues that are here. And I want to thank all of you for joining us here today as well. This week marks the commencement of the 2018 Winter Olympics. It's a time when we send some of our very best athletes to compete against the finest from all around the globe. These women and men work tirelessly all their lives to achieve their goal of competing in the games. On their website, the United States Olympic Committee pledges to support our athletes, quote, in achieving sustained competitive excellence while demonstrating the values of the Olympic movement, thereby inspiring all Americans, end quote. I don't know about all of you out there, but when I read the reports last week that USOC CEO Scott Blackman was aware of sexual abuse allegations against ex-Team USA gymnastics doctor Larry Nassar in 2015, I was not inspired. I was disgusted. I was outraged. And I joined Senator Shaheen in calling for Scott Blackmun's resignation. Today, I'm here with Senator Shaheen and our colleagues to advocate for a special committee to investigate the USOC and USA gymnastics role regarding how Larry Nassar was able to sexually abuse gymnasts for decades. While it began with the conviction of Larry Nassar, that is not where this ends. It doesn't end there. The reprehensible actions of this so-called doctor have been exposed, yet there are still so many questions that remain. Why was this disgusting man allowed near our young female athletes when there are reports that the USOC leadership knew about the sexual abuse allegations? Why didn't the USOC and USA Gymnastics not take immediate action to remove him when the horrifying allegations were brought to their attention in 2015? These are just a few of the many questions that I have and that the abused and their families deserve answers to. As Iowa native and Olympic gold medalist Shawn Johnson East recently said, and I'm quoting Shawn, "The fact that a system that is supposed to protect children has failed them so bad is so wrong," end quote. And I couldn't agree more with Shawn. Sexual abuse is an issue I take incredibly personally. While in college, I volunteered at a women's crisis shelter that dealt with many forms of abuse. I saw firsthand the struggles and the pain these women endured. Through no fault of their own, their lives were changed forever. Oftentimes, I felt angry. I felt frustrated and helpless, wishing there was more that I could do to stop this from ever happening to them again. Recently, as I read these reports about the many failed opportunities to protect these young women, and in many cases, these children, from this monster, Larry Nassar, I have those same feelings of anger and of frustration from years ago while I was working at that women's crisis shelter. But this time we have the opportunity to do something for these women and for our athletes that represent our nation. I am immensely proud of the courageous young athletes who stood up and fought to ensure Larry Nassar can never lay his hands on another athlete. They have exposed a very dark truth and bravely paved the way for real change and accountability so that we can work to stop this abuse once and for all. We are introducing this resolution to establish a special committee entirely focused on investigating how this abuse was allowed to go on for so long and why leaders of the USOC and USA Gymnastics failed to protect these young women and the path forward to put an end to this type of outrageous abuse. We have the opportunity to stand up for the brave survivors who came forward, for our athletes, and for our children. And I'm proud to join my colleagues here today to finally say enough is enough. Thank you all again for being here today. Next, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina.
Let me say to both Senators Ernst and Shaheen, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for the timing of this press conference where the Olympics starts just in a couple of days. Every single athlete should know that we care and that we're paying attention. And because of your leadership, those athletes now understand and appreciate the sincerity and the seriousness of your efforts. And I'm happy to join with you both. We take great pride in our Olympic athletes, and they should know without doubt that as they sacrifice so much to train and to represent the United States of America on the world stage, that they should be safe. In this regard, USOC and the USA Gymnastics have clearly failed our athletes. My heart goes out to the women affected and their families. This investigation is so important because we know what happened, and because we know what happened, we need to ensure that it doesn't happen again. We need to make a promise and fulfill the promise to the women. Every single person should be respected. Every single woman should be respected, and it did not happen. It cannot happen again. And because of Senators Ernst and Shaheen's leadership, we are in a better position to ensure that it doesn't happen again.
Thank you, Tim. Senator Stabenow.
Thank you. Well, I also want to join in thanking Senator Shaheen, Senator Ernst, and all of my colleagues. You know, I represent the people of Michigan, and I'm an alumnus of Michigan State University. And I'm horrified, as are the people I represent, as are members of my family, about what has happened to these young survivors. Hundreds of them. We really don't know how many, in fact. And when I think about Larry Nassar and what he did continually, it is shocking to me that an institution that I love and respect and people in it let girls down and young women down over and over again. And we know that similar things have happened across the country. That's why it is so important that we shine the light of day on this in terms of this committee and this investigation. You know, last Friday, a father in Eaton County Court, just miles from my home, asked for 5 minutes with Larry Nassar. Now, as a mom and as a grandmother who now has a young granddaughter in sports, I thought, you know, I would have liked 5 minutes with this guy. I only wish that the security had been a little slower in constraining him till he could have gotten a couple of punches out, because all of us understand how destructive and how outrageous this perversion and this man's actions have been. I've had the opportunity to meet with survivors, just last Saturday to meet with a group, and I know all of us who meet with them come away with this sense of awe at their bravery and at their strength in spite of everything that's happened. And I was also impressed with the fact that they now are looking forward. They are working with local police and are interested in developing videos and training materials that can work with teachers and coaches and police officers and so on. And we all know that the first thing that needs to be said and done is you have to take this seriously, which is why the legislation that we just passed, and I was very pleased to be a co-sponsor of, says if an adult receives this kind of information or concern, you have to report it within 24 hours. So that's going forward. The young women are talking about going forward, which is really extraordinary to me. But we also, as has been said, have a responsibility to look at what happened, what else may be happening, how the system failed, how people failed, and to make sure we can do everything possible to make sure young people, girls and boys going forward, know that adults, that those involved in institutions that they need to trust and respect have their back. So I want to thank my colleagues, and I'm pleased to be a part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator
And
Isaacson.
Senator Isaacson.
I want to thank Senator Shaheen and Senator Ernst for their focus on this, and I have a personal reason for being here. I was a part of the committee for the Olympic Games in 1996 that brought them to Atlanta, Georgia. We were so proud of the Olympic movement, the gymnasts that participated in that movement. I saw how hard they worked for their sport. I watched how the organizations that support each and every athlete for the Olympics and sport, how much of an effect they have on their lives. And I know this focus by us is not a condemnation on the Olympic movement, but a laser focus on those who participate in the Olympic movement who might be an enabler or tolerate abuses that are just unspeakable. Dr. Nasser's perversion is not even speakable, and I won't address it except to say that it's going to lead us to a solution of better identity in the future so this doesn't happen again. Quick and swift action when it does happen so it never grows, and an end to any protection or enabling that we might do as institutionally to allow something like this to happen. The Olympic movement is a great movement for mankind. It's a great movement for the United States of America. But we have no tolerance and no patience and not a bit of time to give to anyone who would practice their perversion or would in any way sexually abuse a participant in the Olympic Games or the Olympic movement. I am proud of Senator Shaheen and Senator Ernst for doing this. I'm proud to be a part of it. I'm proud of our Olympians who will participate this weekend, and I hope they know that we're looking out for them to see to it what happened in this particular instance in gymnastics never, ever happens again.
Senator Tillis.
Thank you. Thank you both, Senator Ernst and Senator Shaheen, for sponsoring this legislation. I'm a proud co-sponsor. And, you know, I think that when you think about the U.S. Olympic Committee, you think about all the athletes that are headed to Korea. They are the best of the best. They are extraordinary people, and they're going to do great over the next couple of weeks. We should expect nothing less from the U.S. Olympic Committee. And clearly, the lapses in protecting these children that probably from the time they were walking were working to realize that dream of being an Olympian, have had this dream actually turn into a nightmare. We have a responsibility for oversight, and we should do everything we can to figure out what systemic problems exist in the USOC that need to be fixed. And people need to be held accountable. And I think that this also, it's very important to say all athletes, young boys and young girls, we need to look at all the processes, get to the bottom of it, and let them know that people who are responsible for this process that led to this horrible nightmare for so many young women will never happen again. I appreciate you all's leadership, and I look forward to getting the committee established and getting results and holding people accountable for this horrible act.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. I think we'd be happy to answer any questions that folks might have. Yes, can I also ask you to identify yourself and your publication? Well, we think it's really important, first of all, to have the focus just on this issue for that committee. We also think it's important to have that committee have sexual parity in terms of looking at the issue. And we have been in discussions with leadership on our side. I think Senator Ernst can speak to that as well. I don't have a commitment yet from Senator Schumer, but I'm hopeful that they will support this effort. In terms of timing, the resolution asks that the special committee report by the end of the next 116th Congress. So it would be the end of the next Congress when they would have to report. Do you want to add anything?
Nothing to add, but thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
Hi, Joy Shammer from Cox Media. Any hesitations that leadership is expressing and not just jumping on this? I mean, we've heard a lot from these victims and Olympic athletes who are saying, it's taken this long, we were refused at the Olympic Games, somebody do something. What would the hesitation be?
I haven't heard any hesitation. What my assumption is that because we're dealing with a lot of other issues right now, that's been the holdup, and that as soon as we get past some of these other negotiations around government funding, that hopefully we can get an answer as quickly as possible. Do you want to?
Yes, and there are many different jurisdictions obviously involved here as well. So we will have to work through some of those pushes and pulls, but we are hoping that we can raise this or elevate it to a significant status so that it gets done in short order.
Anything else? Well, thank you all. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Bree Jackson with Next Star Broadcasting. We saw some of the testimonies from the athletes, and they were pretty emotional testimonies. Are you expecting them? Have you talked with them? Are they expected to come in and speak with this committee once it's established? And would that kind of be relieving it for them?
We have not talked, I have not talked to anybody about that particular aspect of it. I think that's part of the responsibilities that the committee would have to lay out as it thinks about how to move forward with the charge in the resolution.
And there are a number of those survivors that have come forward. They have had very emotional testimony. We know that there are many other survivors that wish to remain anonymous, and we would like to respect their privacy as well. So it could be anticipated that the committee, once established, would ask for their testimony, but of course, we want to make sure that we're protecting their rights
Right.
as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone
Thank you
very
all.
much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. That's great. Yes.
I'd have gotten to the guy. I'm telling you, I'd have gotten to him. I was really like that father.
Yes.
What do you need here?